Welcome back. We were on the topic of karma. What were the implications of this law of karma? And we looked at the first implication, the corollary, that understanding the law of karma means that whatever situations are coming to me in life now, only I am responsible for it. So I cannot blame anyone else or anything else for what's coming my way. Right? So only the past me was responsible for what's coming to me now. So understanding this well would mean that we take self-responsibility for all situations which come. Instead of looking outwards, you can turn the focus inwards and you can simply look at what is the lessons, if any, to be learned from the situation which have come my way. Do the best action possible and move ahead. Now, the second corollary would be that if the past I is responsible for the present I, by extending this, we can say that the present I will be responsible for the future I. And again, if understood incorrectly, people can take a fatalistic attitude about karma. The right understanding will make you realize that this is, in fact, the antidote to fatalism. This law is telling us that we are free to create our own destiny in life. Of course, we do so in the field of time. Not everything will result in an immediate result. We have no control of the past, so an intelligent person will just let that go. There is no point crying over spilt milk, as they say. And we have to accept that certain things are happening to us, are happening because of forces we set in motion in the past, either recent past from this life or remote past from other lives. Similarly, by extending this, you are responsible for your future, and hence you have to take charge of your future. Even when it comes to the spiritual life, no guru or teaching can give you liberation. You have to uplift yourself using the support of the teaching and whatever other tools your past good karma has already brought your way. Your past good karma has already given you this very precious, rare human birth. And it's in your hands what you do with it. It's up to you when you want to start taking charge of your life. It can be this very moment if you decide. At the same time, it doesn't hurt to have an attitude of humility, to invoke Ishvara's grace to support you in your efforts. And then the third corollary can be that every experience I have is either because of agami karma or prarabdha karma phalam. So the results of actions done by the current karta in this life or the remote karta of the previous life. Our intellect can, of course, understand this first equation very well, right? When good things happen to good people, we feel rejoiced, our heart is warmed. And when bad things happen to someone who's done bad things, it feels just. However, when it's not so, when something bad seems to happen to a really good person, or people who've done something horrible seem to get away with it, we feel a bit upset or maybe angry with God even. We have to understand that this is only because we are not looking at the second equation, which is the result of prarabdha, that a remote karta and the current bhokta, the relationship between these is not really visible to us. We don't know what prarabdha karma is at play for a situation which has arisen. However, knowing that this equation does exist can take away the feeling of any unjustness in the world. And it can help us accept the situations which come to us and to those around us. Any perceived unjustness is only because of myopia, a short-sightedness about who the karta is. And if you understand and assimilate this well, you can take comfort in the justness of the world again, which of course our intellect demands that there must be, which is why we feel this unjustness when it's not so, because reason tells us and experience tells us that there should be justness in the world. And finally, the last corollary can be that when understanding this law of karma, we understand that prarabdha that's allocated for this life gets exhausted, right? But part of sanchita will remain. This prarabdha which gave rise to this birth and all the situations of this birth was only a small portion of that huge basket of sanchita. So what does that mean? It means that rebirth will happen unless there is jnana. It also means that you cannot exhaust all your karma in this birth. You cannot just lead a very good life and gain liberation. There is, even in the Sanatana Dharma, we talk about different heavens and hells in the terms of different lokas. So it is possible to accumulate a large amount of punyam that you get even, you go to one of these heavens, or you get a devata birth even, where all these pleasures can be enjoyed. And it could be for a very long time, depending on how much punyam you accumulated. But at some point, that punyam will also get exhausted and you'll get kicked out of this heaven. So law of karma tells us that there will always be rebirth unless there is jnanam in this lifetime, which is the only thing which can destroy this big basket of sanchita, which can burn that seed and stop it from giving any future rebirths. When the prarabdha ends, the body falls, but the sukshma shariram continues, and a new birth and body is again given based on the next set of prarabdha, which has to fructify. Right? So every animal birth is only a bhokta birth. Some good karma is, of course, possible even there. It will determine if the dog is born in a beautiful place like this with a caring owner who will have a friend come and house sit for them even when they're away, or in the dog, or in the dog is born in the house of a cruel person who keeps it tied on a short leash all the time. But there is no doerships, of course, in the animal birth. There is no agami. In human birth, only prarabdha gets exhausted, and new agami gets constantly created. So this agami can be good agami, the punyam, or the papam agami. And some of it will get exhausted in this birth, but rest will again get added to that basket of sanchita. So this rebirth will become this endless cycle, and like the text told us, resulting in countless births, unless there is jnana. Any questions before we move on to the next part? Okay, so we will chant the last part. Yeah. We will chant the last part of the text, end of page 22. Tata cha atmavit samsara tirtva
तथा च आत्मवित् संसारतीत्वा
ब्रह्मानन्दमिहैव प्राप्नोति
ब्रह्मानन्दमिहैव प्राप्नोति
तरति शोकम् आत्मवित् इति श्रुतेः
तरति शोकम् आत्मवित् इति श्रुतेः
तनु त्यज्यतु वा
tanum tyajatu va
Kashyam shapasya grihetva
kashyam tapasya grahe tva
jnana samprapti samaye
jnana samprapti samaye
muktosau vigyatashyah
mukto sauvigatashaya
iti smritesche
iti smriteshe
iti tattva bodha prakaranam sampraptam
iti tattva bodha prakaranam samaptam.
Thank you. So we come to the end of the text of Tattva Bodha. The author concludes, Tatacha, and therefore Atmavit, a wise person, a jnani, samsara tirtva, crosses over samsara, consisting of all these three karmas. When the jnani dies, all three sharirams dissolve, merging into the totality. Brahmanandam iha eva prapnoti, enjoys Brahmananda even while living in this very life itself. We said already that for a jnani, the prarabdha has to be exhausted. But we saw what the difference is. While the physical pain might occur, same kind of situation which causes suffering for an ajnani might occur, there will be no suffering for a jnani. This may sound a bit incredulous, but even ajnanis experience this. Say you had a big loss in life and you're feeling terrible, or maybe you had an injury, you broke your leg and you're sitting at home with a lot of pain. And a good friend comes to visit you, a dear old friend, and you both sit and start talking, reminiscing about good memories, cracking jokes, and in this moment of light, beautiful exchange, you start laughing heartily, right? And in that moment when you're laughing heartily, you will forget that pain in your leg or anything else that you're feeling. So even we have these moments where we can be consumed with joy, forgetting whatever else we think should be bothering us. Right? So we experience these moments of joy, irrespective of outside circumstances. And generally, it is said that there is no suffering usually in the present moment. Most of the suffering occurs because we're either projecting about what this means in the future, or we're thinking about the past. Generally, if we are able to come back to the present moment, this very moment right here, there is always joy to be found. And of course, the easier way for this joy to be found is being able to tap into Atma Ananda. Already now knowing that your very nature is bliss, you can recall this Atma Ananda at any point. Right? Of course, again, you have to be careful about the difference between transcendence and suppression, right? So if even whether you use a meditation technique or anything else or you recall the teaching to recall your own nature, you have to be careful to keep checking in that you're not suppressing things, because they will just create a deeper vasana which has to be resolved some other time. And how do you make this check? The check is to see if you're being in the present moment. So even when you're recalling the teaching, say there is an unpleasant situation in front of you, you're recalling the teaching, but you're being very present with what is right now. Because remember, we are Advaitans here, or we're interested in Advaita, right? So there is no recalling your true nature means there is no duality. You're not trying to escape from whatever the situation is. You're recognizing that every experience is an experience of Brahman. So that's the check, to see if you're being present while you're also recalling your higher nature. So it says, Tarati shokam atmavit iti shrutehe. The author says it has been said in the original scriptures, the Shruti. It is not his own teaching. He's quoting a famous statement from Chandogya Upanishad, which someday he might do. Even though prarabdha karma may bring unpleasant situations, he swims over them, crosses them unaffected. The author then quotes another statement from Shruti for Videha Mukti. He says, let him die. He's talking about the jnani in a sacred place like Kashi, or in an ordinary place, even the place of death might be the house of a dog eater, Swapacha, who was considered the most uncultured person in those times. But it doesn't matter where he dies, because of the power of the jnanam he has attained. Jnana sampraptya samay mukto asau. This jnani is already liberated at the time of attaining this knowledge itself. He was liberated while alive, and hence he's liberated from all the karmas. And at the time of death, even the prarabdha karma has been exhausted. So for this jnani, there will be no more rebirth. And this is what is said in the Smriti. This is Videha Mukti. The author is concluding that this is the power of this knowledge, and hence it is worthwhile seeking it. And this concludes the Prakarana Grantha known as Tattva Bodha, he finally says. So congratulations, you've come to the end of Tattva Bodha. And if you have any questions, I will take that, or I will take you through the last mantra, the closing mantra, and then we can take some longer questions.
Will you be doing a repeat of the class?
Which part, Alkaji?
No, the entire course, the entire Tattva Bodha.
Oh, you would like a recap?
No, not a recap. I'd
Yes.
like to do it because each time I do it, I've done it several times before, but each time I feel I accumulate a little more and more and more. So if you're going to run the course again, that would be really nice.
So I won't be running a course immediately, but Arunaji will run a course in a month or so, maybe. We will announce it. She will probably run a Hindi Tattva Bodha.
Doing it repeatedly, it just helps so much. There's always more and more.
Yes, of course, it's a wonderful text, which is why Raviji also emphasizes on recapping all the principles of Tattva Bodha, because it's the foundation, right? But yeah, you can go through the recordings right now, and there will be definitely a class soon enough. I probably might do one more again at some point. I'm going for a long meditation retreat, so when I'm back from that, I will probably run some other courses. So let me share. My screen, yeah. Great. So we've chanted this mantra many times before. To invoke it, let's chant it once more together. I will chant and you can repeat after me. Om PoornaMadah.
Om PoornaMadah.
Purnamidam.
Purnamidam.
Purnat Purnamudachyate.
Purnat Purnamudachyate.
Purnasya Purnamadaya.
Purnasya Purnamadaya.
पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते
पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते
ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
ॐ
शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति
Thank you. Yes, we wait till the end to cover this because this mantra captures the entire essence of Vedanta. And I'm not sure really if it's a bit early at the end of Tattva Bodha itself to cover this mantra. When I was first looking, there was a request from the last batch of students to do this. And when I was trying to find an explanation from an Acharya of the Sampradaya, the shortest one I could find was a 19 session explanation for this mantra, which is about what we just went through for Tattva Bodha. So hopefully it gives you some context. I promise you that you will at least get some context of what this mantra means at this stage. And when you revisit it a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, your understanding of it will keep evolving. Right. So now you finished Tattva Bodha. The rest of your spiritual journey, of course, continues. And let me mute you all. Yes, the rest of your spiritual journey is about converting this knowledge to doubtless knowledge, which has to be done through continued Shravanam and Mananam. And of course, then the big shift is from taking this knowing to being. And that's the job of Nididhyasana. So for now, for those of you who just started with Tattva Bodha, continue with Shravanam and Mananam. And the only difference between Mananam and Nididhyasana, it's not something you do. Nididhyasana, meditation, is a happening, right? So when the mind is sufficiently ready, when the teaching is doubtless, when you contemplate on the teaching, the meditation will happen. You don't have to do the meditation. The only thing you can do is recall the teachings, keep showing up for the classes. So this beautiful mantra now, it's a Shanti Pata, coming from the Shukla Yajurveda. Shanti Patas are usually a prayer verse that all Upanishads begin with. Each of the Vedas has a particular Shanti Pata common to the Upanishads in it. In all other Shanti Patas, though, the prayer is usually asking for something. Example, in the Samaveda, the Shanti Pada starts with Om Apyayantu Mamangani Vak Pranaschakshushotram Mato Balamindriyani Cha Sarvan. It's asking for physical and mental health, asking that I may have Shraddha, the Sadhana Chatushtaya, that there may be no obstacles to this study. This unique Shanti Pata is not asking for anything at all. It's a statement of fact. It's a statement where the entire essence of Vedas are being revealed in it. Of course, like most of these beautiful mantras, a simple translation will not tell you much. Once there is this story of an English scholar who came to learn the scriptures from a guru in India, and the guru started the teaching with this Shanti Pata and dutifully translated it as, that is whole, this is whole, from that whole, this whole came, from that whole, this whole removed, what remains is whole. It is said the Englishman started the study at this point saying the Vedas are prattlings of an infantile mind. However, unlike the Englishman, another person said that let all the Upanishads disappear from the face of the earth, but I don't mind as long as this one verse remains. Hopefully, all of you sitting here in this class have something the Englishman didn't have, which is Shraddha. faith in the words of the Shastra and the teacher, and you will wait to hear the full explanation of this beautiful verse. Let's look at a slightly better translation than what the Pandit ji gave. PoornaMadah. Adah meaning that is fullness, the infinite Brahman. Purnamidam. Idam is this. This being the manifested universe is fullness, the infinite Brahman. Purnat Purna Mudachyate. From that fullness, this fullness has also emerged. Purnasya PoornaMadaya. In this manifested universe, if you recognize the infinite here, Purnameva Vashishyate, then infinity alone remains. So together, that is fullness, the infinite Brahman. This is also fullness, that infinite Brahman. From that fullness, this fullness has emerged. If in this manifested universe you recognize the infinite here, then infinity alone remains. So we'll of course break it down. This verse as a single noun, Purnam. Purnam in Sanskrit means completely filled, wholeness. It's another, Ananda is another synonym for Purnam. Absolute fullness, which is lacking in nothing whatsoever. It is also not limited by time or space. When we looked at the quality of Viveka, the discernment in Sadhana Chatushtaya, many classes ago, we saw the definition as, I hope you remember, Nitya Vastu Viveka. Right? The discernment between what is eternal, permanent, and what is impermanent. Another definition of Viveka you can consider is the discernment between what is Purnam and what is Apurnam. Because from this Viveka, we saw that true Vairagyam comes. One starts to turn away from what is Apurnam, what will not serve me, and turn towards Purnam. And that becomes Mumukshutvam. The Anitya or Apurna objects of the world that no longer will have a hold on you. Of course, somewhere deep down, we all have this innate sense that I am Purnaham. At least this is what I feel, that I am complete. This is why perhaps we get a bit disturbed when we have a feeling of lack. A sense of apurvartam gives rise to a desire to fill that lack. Shastra tells us that this is a mistaken sense of apurna, and this is the root of all misery. So if someone asks, where does samsara start? This is where it starts. It starts from this ignorance of your true nature, which makes you think you're anything but this Purnam, anything but this wholeness. Purnaha is expressed as happiness, and a lacking is expressed as sorrow. Of course, being Purnaha, full, this Ananda feels natural to us because it's intrinsic. When you're very happy, no one says, let me try to get rid of a bit of this happiness. In the moment of happiness, you don't want anything to change. You don't try to get rid of anything or change anything, because that is your essential nature. That is your intrinsic nature. It's only when there is a feeling of apurna, we try to change that. Without viveka, now, I said viveka can also be discernment between what is purna and what is apurna. Without viveka, we will try to go about trying to find this fullness from apurna objects of the world. And that's what is usually happening. That's what it means to be, have your primary goals as artha, kama, or dharma, because it's having primary goals as artha, kama, dharma means you still think happiness can be found somewhere else, can be found in something external. It's only when one turns to moksha, you will come to the realization that aham purnaha, I am complete already. I always was and I always will be. This verse then has two pronouns, adaha and idam. That and this. Both are, of course, referring to the same noun, purnam. PoornaMadah, PoornaMidam. That, in general, whenever we use it in conversation, refers to something that is remote to the speaker. And this usually refers to something that is near to the speaker. And that is the context it is used here as well. Adaha, that refers to everything that is remote to the speaker in time, space, knowledge. It is not perceptible. It can be indirect knowledge, paroksha jnanam. It is beyond the range of pratyaksha. It is beyond the range of senses. It can be said it refers to the unknown or what we consider to be currently unknowable. Something all the transcendent. Hence, this might include what many call God. Many take it on faith that God exists, and many others do not believe in God at all. Now, our other pronoun, idam, this is something which is usually available for direct perception. It can be extended to include the whole perceptible universe, everything that is pratyaksha or possibly pratyaksha, not just everything which is known, but everything which is knowable through sense perception in the future. And the mantra is telling us that both are actually the same, both are purnam. How can that be? Let's look at the process of how that becomes this in normal life. Usually the thatness can be removed when in the remoteness is in time, space, or knowledge is removed. When you say what is that tree to a friend, right? So they might explain to you, this is a particular kind of fir tree. It's this many years old. This is how it grows, etc. And then your ignorance about that tree is removed, and it's no longer that tree for you, that it becomes this tree. The remoteness of that can be destroyed and made this when this distance in knowledge is removed. Some other times it could be the remoteness in time or space is removed, and that becomes this. This is the sense in which the mantra equates adaha and idam. In Ishavo Upanishad, where the Shanti Pata appears, there is a definition of idam given here. After the Shanti Pata, the first verse defines idam, saying, idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat. All this, whatsoever changing in this changing world. So by PoornaMidam, the verse tells us that all that is which is known or capable of being known is Purnam. There is a small problem in understanding the statement if you see it. When you say everything knowable to me, all objects knowable to me, what is being left out? The subject I is being left out. So thus comes in the other pronoun, adam, that. So in the context explained just now, idam is being used for all knowable objects, and adaha, that would refer to then what is left out. That is, what is not available for objectification, which is the subject I. Hence, in contrast to idam, the knowable objects, adaha refers to aham, I, the subject. We defined Adam earlier as something remote in time, space, or knowledge. And now we are saying that Adam refers to I. How can this be? I am right here, right now. I'm not remote. Again, we all have an innate sense, I think, that I exist. I am here. No one will say I do not exist. If they say that, who's the I saying they do not exist? Perhaps I am remote in terms of knowledge then. We know now that it's only through Shabda Pramanam that I can know my real nature. This knowledge we discussed before, how it is different from any knowledge which can be gained by senses, pratyaksha, or by paroksha knowledge about a remote object. Because this knowledge is not about an object at all, it's about the subject. That's what the Shabda Pramanam, Shastra, is telling you about. Thus far, the two lines of the verses told us, PoornaMadah, completeness is I, the subject. PoornaMidam, completeness is all objects, known and knowable. Any questions before we move to the other parts of the verse? Let's continue. On the onset, it might seem that each somehow leaves out the other. No? However, when we look at it from the standpoint of the word Purnam, Purnam means wholeness, completeness. What does that mean? It means that it includes everything. Purnam cannot be minus something or plus something. Hence, it must be understood as completeness. Purnam is all there is. Why is the verse then bothering with this and that? Why not just say Purnam is all there is? Is it just a play of words, some kind of poetic license, trying to create some kind of riddle to mess with your mind? It's none of these. There is always a purpose in Shastra. Because saying completeness is all there is would not clear the confusion that most of us have. My everyday experience tells me that I, the subject, am different from the objects that I experience. I see this tree, but I'm different from the tree. This is what my experience says. Moreover, in my experience, I do not feel complete. And nor do I look at this tree and I see fullness or completeness in this tree. Hence, each of these statements is meant to clear a particular confusion, a certain kind of confusion. So Adam and Idam in this Shanti Pata are not given for poetry or riddle. They are given to acknowledge this experience of duality. Right? Which is why the term mithya, which we looked at extensively, mithya, maya, exists only in Vedanta. Vedanta accepts the experience of duality while telling us that it is not the ultimate reality. The aim of Vedanta is not for you to experience non-duality. This experience of non-duality may seek, crave, can happen in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, which is the highest state achieved through yoga. But it is a state and it is not permanent. The aim is not to be afraid of the experience of duality, but simply to recognize the mithyatvam of that experience and hence transcend it. When in the example of our Raju Sarpa, when the light brightens and the rope is exposed for what it truly is, where is the rope? Exactly where you saw the snake before, right? You didn't have to go anywhere else to find the rope. You just had to see the falsity of the rope. Falsity of the snake and see the rope which was underlying there always. So the experience of duality is completely fine. It's only the conclusion of duality that Shastra is telling you to negate. Shastra is asking you to drop the wrong notion that I am different from the world or Ishvara, and that these are different from me. It's usually hard to see fullness in any perceivable objects, all the idams. They all have a name and form, and every form is limiting. The little inquiry hence will tell us that fullness by nature must be formless, because anything with form has a limiting boundary, and everything I perceive has a form. Hence, it may be a bit easier for people to accept Adam, that which I cannot perceive may be formless, and hence fullness. So the mantra continues to address this confusion. The next line tells us, Purnat PoornaMudachyate. From that fullness, this fullness has emerged. From the discussion so far, you might have a question, how can this fullness, comprising of the world of forms, came from that fullness which is formless?
Your frame is frozen.
One second.
You muted, Spandana.
Thank you. Where did you lose me? So I was coming to the next line. Purnat PoornaMudachyate. From that fullness, this fullness has emerged. Of course, we looked at it already in Tattva Bodha. How is that so? How did this manifested world come to be? We did it in Samashti Vichara, right? So, and it told us, because we are exploring the question of how all this world of limited objects, in terms of seemingly limited object, in terms of their name and form, are actually unlimited, are actually fullness as well. We can again take the example of the gold and the cold chain, or the clay and the clay pot or cup, right? So from the relatively formless clay, this cup was given a particular form, correct? So we have a chance to refresh some of what we learned in Tattva Bodha. When we looked at creation, we said Ishvara is the Upadana Karanam, the material cause, and also the Nimitta Karanam. In the case of this cup, there is a separate Upadana Karanam, which was the clay, and there is a separate Nimitta Karanam, which was the potter, right, who made this. But in the case of this manifested world, both the Nimitta and Upadana Karanam are the same. And to understand this, to understand that this kind of example can exist, right here we gave the example of the spider. The spider weaves the web out of itself, and the web can resolve into the spider itself. In this case, the spider is both the material and efficient cause. And we also gave this dream example to explain how the effect is not different from the cause. When you dream, where does the dream come from? It's all your knowledge. The material of the dream world is inherent to you. It's not different from you. The creator similarly pervades the creation which has come out of himself. In the dreams, there are sentient beings like animals, other people, they're inert things like trees and mountains and buildings. And similarly, just as it was your knowledge alone which manifests as both the inert and sentient beings in the dream world, so it is with this Jagat. It is Ishvara who this manifested universe has come out of, and it is Ishvara pervading this entire manifest universe. The mantra is telling us that the cause is Purnam and the effect is also Purnam. Purnat Purnamudachyate. Effectively saying that the cause and effect are one and the same. Hence, causality itself is negated. Because the mantra is saying that there is no difference between the cause and the effect. Hence, negating what? Negating duality. The clay and the pot from the pot was created from the clay, but where is the pot? I can only feel clay when I'm touching this. I can only feel the weight of the clay when I want to know the weight of the pot, right? So the pot was just a name and form given to the clay. This is mithya. The name and form is mithya, but the mithyatvam of the world is only a step in Vedantic inquiry. Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya Jivo Brahmeva Naparaha. This beautiful teaching is still only a step in Vedantic inquiry. This statement belongs to the Vyavaharika. When you say Brahman is Satyam and the Jagat is Mithya, and you, Jiva, are no different from this Brahman, it is a statement belonging to Vyavaharika. It's a statement explaining the perception of duality, which belongs to a lower level of reality. So is the world real? It depends on who is asking and which step of inquiry they're on. To the man on the street, the world is real. To an inquirer, it is anirvachaniyam. It is inexplicable in the sense it is not the truth, but it is not either. You perceive it, you experience it. You just experience it as something, it's not its complete truth. Just like you experience a snake when you see the rope. Right? So to an inquirer, you can simply say it is anirvachaniyam, it's mithya. To the enlightened one, there is no world. There is Brahman alone. There is only that one reality. Of course, the Vikshepa Shakti of Maya will continue. So an enlightened one is still able to interact with the world, see the different objects of the world. But the ignorance has been removed. The veiling power of Maya has been removed. So he sees the world for what it truly is, Brahman alone. By saying that Adam and Idam are Purnam, the mantra is conveying the idea that both the formless and the form are Brahman. The idea that God is only something we cannot see is negated. And the idea that the God is something we can see is also negated. The formless and form are both only one reality. And finally, the mantra says, Purnasya PoornaMadaya, taking away Purnam from Purnam, or adding Purnam to Purnam, Purnameva avishyate. Purnam alone remains. If you take the gold away from the chain, the shape of the chain may be gone, but the gold remains, right? Similarly, if you take away some gold, still the gold alone remains. Thing is, you don't have to add or remove the gold from the chain. There was always only gold. Idam, the objects of the world don't have to be eliminated to reveal Brahman any more than the chain has to be melted to reveal gold. Everything you perceive is Brahman. If you're looking for an experience of Brahman, you're having it right now. You're having it in every moment. Any adding or removing is mithya. Any difference between the formed and the formless is mithya. So what is it that you have attained after all this inquiry? What have you added after all this inquiry? And what have you removed from after all this inquiry? Nothing which was not there before. And this thinking that there was something to attain or something to remove, some ignorance to remove, this was also mithya. That is from the paramarthika level. From the vyavaharika point of view, what will be removed is the very substantial samsara. And what will be attained is unlimited bliss. It is understanding I am the limitless ocean. Waves may appear in me and disappear, but I am the limitless, vast ocean. I am undisturbed, unchanging. And the waves which appear are a manifestation of my glory alone. That's the message of Shastra that you will continue hearing, I hope, through many, many future classes, and will assimilate, and it will become your own knowledge. We'll conclude with that and open the floor for any questions.
Chandaji, what is next for us now?
Bhagavad Gita. If you are you already part of the classes?
I haven't joined it yet, ma'am.
Okay, so I would recommend joining Tanmayji's class, which is the newest batch, which is available. She's stepping in for Medaji for this year till June. So they're already in chapter 2, so there might be a few things which you feel like you're missing at this point, but still it's great to be exposed to regular Shravanam. With the background in Tattva Bodha, you should be able to manage to understand most of what she's covering. And I will start a new Bhagavad Gita batch probably early next year. So the knowledge is all the same, but it's very subtle. Hence, Shastra will keep giving it to you in many, many different ways. So after Bhagavad Gita, you will do the Upanishads. If after you've done a certain amount of regular study, sometimes we also allow students to join the Upanishads class before completion of Bhagavad Gita, but generally it's only open to students who've shown a high amount of dedication and shown up for all the classes for a sufficiently reasonable amount of time. Right? And yes, yeah, then it'll keep continuing. Bhagavad Gita will, of course, give you a lot of the preliminary practices also. And like it'll give you all the preliminary practices of Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Raja Yoga. And of course, like we mentioned many times before, it's conducive for a spiritual aspirant to have a life of sadhana, or try to inculcate as much sadhana as possible in your life. So what kind of sadhana you should inculcate will be introduced to you through the course of Tattva Bodha, but I'm also available for any kind of private consultation calls if you want. You just have to WhatsApp me and I will make myself available. We can have a discussion about where are you in your sadhana, what would be conducive for you to add. Me, all the teachers you've been studying with, we're always available. Just request you to reach out to make an appointment if you want to talk.
I have another small query. So this
Sure.
Vedanta Amritam thing is only online, or Ravi Ishwaranji or Swami Chinmayaranji, do they have set up sort of thing wherein you can go and, like you said, you're going for a meditation retreat. So how all these things work related to organization, and
Yeah,
what do we do to get an opportunity to go and physically attend classes or go for a retreat or something like that sort?
absolutely. So yes, I can. I think we've shared some in the group in the past. So we belong to, of course, the lineage of, of course, rolling up all the way to Adi Shankaracharya, but our guru, our living guru, we consider is Swami Paramarthananda. He's based in Chennai. So he conducts, any of you are fortunate enough to live in Chennai, you can also attend his live classes. If that is the case, you can reach out to me and I'll tell you how to find his classes, right? These days, he doesn't travel to conduct retreats anymore. But of course, his guru was Swami Dayananda. So there is Arsha Vidya Pitam, the Swami Dayananda ashram, which is there in Rishikesh. It is regularly conducting these retreats, right? It's Vedanta camps, these 10-day intensive Vedanta camps. There are teachers, various great acharyas of this lineage might be conducting retreats across different places. There were also some happening in the US. I sent it to some of the students who are in US, right? So whenever you have a chance to attend any of these retreats, it'll be fantastic. Raviji, myself, some of the other teachers, we're also sometimes holding retreats in Shivananda ashram, but Shivananda, they're more going to be an introduction to Vedanta retreats. Shivananda ashram is a yoga Vedanta ashram, so it's also a great place to go experience yoga as a way of life. There is time for bhakti, karma yoga, and asana, and everything. So, like I said, it will be an introduction to Vedanta retreat, so it won't be necessarily something new we've not covered in Tattva Bodha. But still, if you just want to be with the Sangha, you can consider those retreats as well. The one I'm conducting will be in February in Naya Dam, as the dates and everything gets finalized. Or some other retreats come up at Arshavidya Rishikesh, we will post it on the group. Yeah.
There's a center in Rishikesh too?
There is an ashram in Rishikesh, Swami Dayananda ashram, also called Arshavidya.
Oh.
Yes. So, but they don't always have classes. There is for people who really want to go commit a longer time, there is also full-time courses. There is 2-3-year courses. Which happen right now. This year it's happening in Anaketi. And people who want to really dive deep, that's a great way to do it as well. There's full-time courses both at Swami Dayananda and Chinmayananda ashrams. Deepa, you had a question, please.
Yeah, my request is I want to give you a compliment because listening to you with the beautiful background, I love it. I mean, it's
Thank you.
simply very, very beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Every time you come up with different kind of places, different places. So beautiful, so beautiful.
Thank you. I live a bit minimalistically and nomadically, so I usually live in the mountains, so that's the background which I'm blessed to have.
Just beautiful.
Even that,
Yes.
I got introduced to this Vedanta Amritam through Pradnyaji during my TTC at Layer Dam this year, ma'am. So I was, while we went through the similar thing by Nadraj sir at the ashram during TTC to Vedanta, but then the way you conducted the class and in a fashion and so deliberately you taught each and every topic, and it was really insightful, and I could appreciate and understand the concepts and this everything altogether very nicely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All the pranams belong to Raviji and the Guru Parampara. I'm teaching exactly the way I was taught, and that is it.
All of us echo these thoughts, Pandamaji.
Pardon me?
All of us echo these thoughts. We've thoroughly enjoyed the class and gained a lot.
Thank you so much.
And I will also say 2 words to endorse everybody else's, whatever they have already said, not to repeat, no punaravritti dosham. But I would say the PoornaMadah mantram really was the icing on the cake.
I'm
Yes.
happy you got something from it.
Thank you. I mean, it was also second time for me, but that is the icing on the cake of this class.
Beautiful. Thank you. I hope all of you keep going. Someone's pinged me to ask if they can donate. Thank you for wanting to donate. Just to clarify the policy of Vedanta Amritam and the lineage in general, even if you go to visit any of the Swamis or Acharyas later, the teaching is always given completely freely as per tradition. And as per tradition, if anyone wants to donate, they're welcome to do so. They can just reach out to the teacher they want to make a donation to. Of course, there is absolutely no expectation or compulsion. None of us are doing it for that, which is why we don't really mention it. But if anyone wants to, they're welcome to. It's fine as per tradition. Right. Thank you. Any other questions?
Big thank you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful Vedantic journey. Keep in touch and reach out if I can support in any way. I will be starting some courses specifically for women sadhakas, not purely Vedanta, but for women to work with their menstrual cycle awareness as a way to understand their vasanas and grow in self-awareness. Self being the small self there, but yeah, when I do that, I will post it probably on my YouTube. So if you're subscribed to me there, you'll probably hear about it. Okay. Thank you. Wonderful being with all of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.